I got to say, it's so funny. Me and Chris, we were doing talks for, we were doing a Zoom call, and Chris was saying to me that my son can't make the weight, my son can't do this, my son can't make a 157. And I said, I didn't choose the weight, your son chose the weight. And so me and Chris were going back and forth, and Chris was so adamant about him not making the weight. He's going to be, it's going to hurt him, he won't be strong, and I'm going to stop this and I'll stop that. I thought to myself, but it was your son that made the weight. And we kept on going on. And then I saw a picture of Chris Eubank Jr. You'll find it on the net or whatever in the papers. And I looked at the picture and I saw him. His face is not there and his body is emaciated. And I sent Chris a text saying, sorry Chris, I didn't realise what you were saying. And I asked Chris, I said, please forgive me, Chris, because I honestly believe if my son had fought Chris now, I believe Connor would have hurt him, just like what happened to John Clennon. And I know my Heavenly Father said, it's not going to happen. It wasn't nobody stopped it. But I believe Jesus stopped this fight happening because I don't want nothing on my son's head saying like, you know what, you made it, you're on drugs. God saying, this is not happening. Not until I clear my son. Chris, now, if my son had fought Chris, now, I believe Connor would have hurt him. Just like what happened to John Clennon. And I know my Heavenly Father said, it's not going to happen.
Muggins, just mugging man off, sitting right there, you know.
I believe Jesus stopped this fight happening because I don't want nothing on my son's head saying like, you know what, you made it, you're on drugs. God saying, this is not happening. Not until I clear my son's name. Then, and I said to Connor, if you do fight him, he's not fighting at 157. I want you to fight him at 160. Then to fight him because the one thing is, I wouldn't want my son to go through the same thing I went through with John Clennon.
What's good, family? It's your man, the YB, back once again. Big shout out to my doggy Weps. Yeah, coming through, weapon the thing up 100%. Weapon the coin up, no doubt about 100%. Million percent confirmed. So we just heard there from your man's Nigel Benn. This was Muggins. Now, I haven't got kids, man, but this is Muggins, 100%. Particularly in this environment we find ourselves in. Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank Sr. will be the most, kind of, what's the word? No, I guess you could call it alpha, but listen. There's no way Chris Eubank Sr. will want to hear that Nigel Benn. Like, let's not forget. Yes, Eubank Sr. didn't want the fight to happen. But I do find it hard to believe that Chris Sr. would have heard these words. Yeah, you're right, Chris. You're right, Chris, for cancelling the fight because my son was fixing to set about you. Yeah, my son was going to have a way with your son. That's, you know what I'm saying? It's one thing, if you're a beta male poppy, yeah, I mean, if you're a beta male dad and you're beta and your wife runs the household and whatever else, it's not so bad. But someone like Eubank Sr., who obviously is more, you know what I'm saying, got that ego about him. Naturally, he's a fighter. All fighters have it, even if they're delusional, they have a very high sense of self. They need that to even get in there and get busy with it. But the point is, what's peaker, yeah? Apart from, in fact, it may even be worse, but what's peaker than being told, yeah, my son was about to bury your son? You know, there's no way. But then again, you could argue Senior himself was almost admitting that. And that's one of the things I was saying. Senior himself must believe that. Because if Senior didn't believe Conor Benn was fixing to set about Junior, he wouldn't have come out and made a big song and a dance about it, would he? So in a way, maybe Senior wasn't. Part of me initially, when I heard it, I thought, wow, Senior must be like feeling, what's the word? You know what I mean? I thought Senior must be frothing under the surface. Like, who do you think you are to tell the public that your son was about to do away with my son? But really, I think he probably agree, yeah, you're right. Your juicy son was about to have his way with him. But it's just mad, I don't know. Especially when you think where these cats have come from. There was a time these two men, I remember watching a BBC programme. It was like Gladiator School, and it was Nigel Benn. It's on YouTube, I think. Nigel Benn versus Chris Eubank Senior, Gladiator School, and they were proper just beefing, proper old school early 2000s British beef. That's what it was. There's no other way of putting it. Good ITV early 2000s British beef. Nothing quite like it. Yeah, they don't make British beef out anymore. That's what you best believe they don't do. Yeah, we got Tyson Fury and Dillian White tickling each other's nipples. Jesus Christ. But anyway, man, listen. Like I said, Nigel Benn mugged off Chris Eubank Senior. He said, listen. Yeah, Nigel Benn said, listen, Chris, my son rather, is juiced off his Nelly, and he's about to come in there and have his way with your son. And Senior said, listen, you're right. Yeah, my son's a clown. My son's a clown who don't know what he's talking about. And I warned it. I'm the one who actually told everyone. Before Chris came out publicly, I told everyone what Chris was thinking. Because Chris told me. Oops. Yeah, I told everyone, Chris don't want this fight to happen because he's nervous that his son is a clown and his son is about to get his pack smoked by the small Ben. Yeah? I said it. I told this back in August. Oh, YB, stop making stories up. I'm sick of you clickbaiting. 2 months down the line, it all comes out. The YB was 100% correct. And Chris Eubank Sr. was scared about Conor Benn setting about his son. Oops. Now, what I will say is, I find it interesting, and I think I've mentioned earlier about the egos of these two men, but I do think Nigel Benn's ego is getting a bit too much. Towards the end, he said, yeah, if we do this fight, my son was gonna kill your son, but therefore, if we do this fight, I've told Conor it has to be at 160. Now, to some extent, I do have to salute Eubank Sr. here, because this might be a big play. Because if it was a big play, Senior has rung rings around Nigel Benn. Because if he really thinks that, it's almost like Senior's been happy to gas Nigel Benn up. Yeah, Nigel. Yeah, your son would kill my son. Yeah, let's do it at 160. Do you know what I'm saying? That's how it looks to me. Because let's not forget, people, Conor is a 140. Conor's come from 140. Eubank has always been a 160 pounder. Conor Benn's coming from 140. That's 147. That's 2 weight classes. The whole reason of the weight stuff was to make it more equal. And I'm sorry, I agree with it. I don't want to see Conor Benn at 160 versus Chris Eubank at 160. I don't want to watch that. That's not fair. I don't care what no one says. That's not a fair fight. The whole reason for the weight limits was to even things out. So it does look like, I'm not even sure the fight will happen now. Apparently Conor Benn's team isn't stupid enough to take this fight without the weight hindrances. And I have to agree on that one, I'm sorry. We've already seen Canelo went up 1 weight division. And it was night and day. Canelo went from literally popping everyone's cherries for them. Popped Caleb Plant's cherry. Popped Billy Joe Sausage's cherry, and then goes in there with a man 7 pounds heavier and got taken to school. Yeah? So that's 1 weight class, and that's of Canelo. Never mind Conor Benn, who's really completely unfounded. I'm not saying Eubank ain't all that himself, but you know what I'm saying? Let's call a spade here. And no one trying to watch that. And Nigel Benn seems just too gassed up. Because Nigel, don't forget, whatever your son's been doing, is half of it's the juice. Do you know what I'm saying? Let's not forget that. The way you're gassing your son up is as if he's been doing it clean. Your son's been juiced off his Nelly. So however good he's looked, most of it's the juice from Dr. Al Shabab. I told you, man, the other day, Dr. Al Shabab has had Conor Benn expeditiously juiced. Yeah? No doubt about it. Anyway, whatever way you want to look at it, I'm sorry, the way that Nigel was reeling the bars off, they was peak bars. Oh, my son was about to catch a body on your son. Oh, I told Conor, you can't go in there with Chris Eubank. I don't want you to catch a body. Man, you know what I'm saying? Imagine saying to another man, yeah, I had to save your son from himself because my son was... yeah, I'm sorry, that's the peakest. I had to save your son from my son. catching his body. Yeah, smoking on that pack. That's what he said. Nigel Benn said, listen, Chris. You don't know how my son get busy with it, yeah? I had to save you, and I had to save the Eubank lineage from being smoked on 100%, because Connor was about to roll up and smoke on that big 33-year-old 160-pound having ass pack. And Eubank agreed. And that's probably why Nigel of course Nigel's going to be feeling himself. Yeah, because he's heard all this crying from Eubank. Oh, don't do it, you can't do it. That's only going to, for someone like Nigel, yeah, who's full of ego, that's only going to gas him up. Oh yeah, my arch enemy's scared that my son's about to have his way with him. Yeah, that only would have blown his own head up. And that's why you heard this here. Because really, how many people here really think Conor Benn is that dangerous that he was about to cause, you know what I'm saying? Like he was about to cause a Gerald McLennan? No one does. Apart from only in Nigel Benn's head is that a high likelihood. Again, don't forget, people, this isn't a case of Conor Benn's a natural 160 and they're still trying to drain Eubank. No, the whole reason for the weight draining was to make up for the fact Conor Benn's small. And I have to say this. It's all well and good joking around here, but in all fairness, if Conor Benn's to go to 160 immediately, that's almost as bad, isn't it? I'm going to be real here. Conor Benn going to 160 isn't far off Eubank coming down to 157. Because Eubank's been making 160 for God knows how long. So it's not that much of a stretch. And of course, I understand that physiologically, going up in weight isn't as detrimental because you're not dehydrated, but still, you're going in there fighting a fully fledged bull compared to yourself. Anyway, man, listen. This whole saga's been interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to see the dynamics play out. Senior seems happy to sit back and just... He appears to me to be a bit like a fox. I wouldn't be surprised at all to know that Eubank Senior's been plotting some of these parts. Yeah, let Nigel Benn get all the way, get lost in the source of his own ego. Yeah, Nigel, your son was about to kill my son. Yeah, Nigel, for sure, that was definitely about to happen. So yeah, we better do it 160 then. You know what I'm saying? That's how the bars came across to me. Yeah, Nigel, yeah, Conor Benn was definitely about to kill my son. Yeah, yeah, Nigel, your son was definitely about to kill my son, so we better do the fight at 168. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the next 100%. The next thing coming, yeah. Chris Eubank Senior going to be saying, yeah, Nigel, I'm worried about the fight being at 160, Nigel. Yeah, Conor's just too strong at 160. Yeah, Conor's, even though Conor's coming from 147, he's still too big and strong. My son's been at 168. He's got to boil himself down to get back to 160. Yeah, I think you better do it at 168. I can imagine that. That's the next one coming. Yeah. Senior will kick a big fuss up about 160, and the next thing you know, you'll see a video of Nigel Benn saying, yeah, Chris rang me and told me the fight's at 160, and I said to Chris, listen Chris, if Conor goes in there from 147 to 160 with your son, oh, it's going to be Gerald McLennan. So I told Chris, you're right Chris, it better be at 168. I'm telling you now, that's what's coming next, 100%. Because Nigel don't seem to be able to read the room. Yeah, Nigel getting lost in the source of his ego. Yeah, of course my son out of my seed is the Eubank Slayer. Even though I couldn't slay the Eubank myself, my seed, yeah, the prodigal son. The prodigal son has jumped out of my nuts. Yeah, the prodigal son who I shot out of my Jacobs is the, you know what I'm saying? What's the word? The all slaying Eubank. The all slaying. Listen, end of the day, man. The all slaying Eubank smoker. Yeah, the prodigal son has returned to raise back up the Nigel Benn name. That's how Nigel Benn be seeing it. Yeah, the prodigal, 100% prodigal. Conor Benn's the prodigal. He's come down. He's been sent straight out of Nigel's Johnson to reclaim the Benn throne. That's how Nigel Benn feels. Yeah, the prodigal 100%. Straight out of Jacob, straight out of his Jap's eye. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Smash the like button, subscribe, and your boy will be back.